From the New York Times, it's The Headlines. I'm Will Jarvis, in for Tracy Mumford. Today's Wednesday, June 25th. Here's what we're covering.
Thank you, my friends. Tonight, we made history.
In New York City, Zohran Mamdani, a 33-year-old progressive state lawmaker, stunned the political establishment as he declared victory in the Democratic primary for mayor.
We have won because New Yorkers have stood up for a city they can afford. A city where they can do more than just struggle.
The final results are not in, but Mamdani's commanding lead dealt a definitive blow to the apparent frontrunner in the race, former Governor Andrew Cuomo.
I called him, I congratulated him, I applaud him sincerely for his effort, and
Cuomo conceded the election overnight in what one Democratic strategist called the biggest political upset in modern New York City history. Mamdani, who's a Democratic socialist, captured national attention as Democrats around the country try to fend off rising discontent from voters and find a new generation of leadership.
Most New Yorkers did not know Zohran Mamdani's name 6 months ago. He was a little-known state assembly member from Queens, but he focused on this message of affordability.
Emma Fitzsimmons is the City Hall bureau chief for The Times. She says Tuesday's election was a battle between the Democratic Party's more traditional moderates, represented by Cuomo, and its left wing, which Mamdani championed.
He talked constantly about his proposals to make the city more affordable, free buses, rent freezes, city-owned grocery stores. He just kept hammering home these ideas, and he ran this upbeat campaign. He had a lot of energy and charisma, and he really attacked Andrew Cuomo as part of the politics of the past. He was sort of this happy warrior who would be the first Muslim mayor, but also made an argument for why he was the future of the Democratic Party.
If Mamdani does officially win, he'll likely be the frontrunner for the general election in November. But it could be a tight race. New York's current mayor, Eric Adams, is running as an independent, and Cuomo has not ruled out doing the same. The Times has learned that a preliminary classified report from the Pentagon suggests President Trump overstated the success of the recent U.S. attacks on Iran. Over the weekend, the president claimed that American forces had, quote, obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities using so-called bunker buster bombs and missiles launched from a submarine. But the early assessment from the Defense Intelligence Agency says that while the strikes caused moderate to severe damage, they didn't fully destroy the underground facilities they targeted. Military experts have said it could take days or even weeks of repeated bombing to take out one of the facilities, which was buried hundreds of feet under a mountain. The report also says that before the strikes, Iran had been able to move much of its enriched uranium to other locations. Overall, the analysis estimates that Iran's nuclear program was set back by less than 6 months. Since he announced the covert strikes, President Trump has repeatedly complained to his advisors about news reports questioning how much damage was done. And the White House press secretary said, quote, the leaking of this alleged assessment is a clear attempt to demean President Trump and discredit the brave fighter pilots who conducted a perfectly executed mission. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says the Pentagon is now working with the FBI to investigate who leaked the report. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill,
why is the Trump administration playing political games on questions of war and peace?
Outrage is growing among Democratic lawmakers after the White House postponed a classified briefing about the strikes.
We have an administration that won't talk truthfully and honestly about matters of national security and potentially taking us into another war in the Middle East.
House and Senate lawmakers had been told they would be briefed yesterday by the CIA director and other officials about the aftermath of the attack. Those meetings have been pushed off until tomorrow and Friday, and Democratic leaders say the administration is failing to meet its legal obligations. Under the War Powers Resolution of 1973, the president is required to notify Congress within 48 hours of any military action and provide a classified briefing. They've also questioned the president's justification for the strikes, with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries saying he's seen no evidence the strikes were justified or that there was any imminent threat to the United States. In the Netherlands,
Hey, but listen, if Trump would not have been elected president of the United States, do they really think that it would be doable to reach this commitment of 5% today?
the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, is working to appease President Trump as they meet this morning at the group's annual meeting. Trump has long seeded doubt about his commitment to the transatlantic military alliance, and ahead of the summit, Rutte sent him a series of fawning text messages praising his leadership that Trump then shared on social media. The NATO leader has also been trying to get member countries on board with Trump's long-standing demand that they raise military spending to 5% of their GDP, up from 2%. Rutte suggested that could happen soon. And notably, discussions of the war in Ukraine, which have dominated other NATO summits, are expected to be sidelined in an effort to avoid any tensions with Trump, who has questioned America's support for the country. Trump is attending meetings this morning, followed by a press conference before flying back to Washington. He's expected to spend a total of less than 24 hours on the ground. Buyer, be aware. On Tuesday, FICO, one of the leading credit score companies in the U.S., announced it's going to start incorporating a new metric into its scores: payment history from when consumers sign up for buy now, pay later plans, which currently don't show up on credit reports. The move could eventually affect millions of Americans, since FICO's scores are used by 90% of lenders in the U.S. And it comes as buy now, pay later has become an increasingly popular way to shop, not just for big-ticket items like couches or TVs, but for everyday expenses like groceries and household utilities. In 2019, Americans purchased about $2 billion in goods and services using pay later loans. By 2023, that number shot up to over $100 billion. One financial analyst told The Times that while the new calculations could hurt people who don't pay off their debt, it could also potentially give people who use the loans responsibly a way to boost their credit score. And finally, this week, The Times is wading into a dangerously controversial debate. What are the 100 best films of the 21st century?
Okay, so what's it going to be?
My colleagues have compiled that list by polling more than 500 filmmakers, stars, and other Hollywood insiders. This week, they're unveiling 20 films each day, starting at number 100, the 2007 comedy Superbad.
I am McLovin.
What kind of a stupid name is that, Fogel? What, are you trying to be an Irish R&B singer?
Oscar winner Julianne Moore, among others, put that film in her top 10 list. Directors Pedro Almodovar, Sofia Coppola, and Barry Jenkins also weighed in, as well as actors like Brian Cox and John Turturro. The first 60 films have included everything from Gladiator...
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
...to Inside Llewyn Davis...
Space.
...to the South Korean crime thriller Old Boy.
온 세상이 너와 함께 웃을 것이다. 울어라.
In his ballot, Turturro praised that film, saying, quote, "It's romantic, it's disgusting, it's fun, it just grabs you." Of course, this is all incredibly subjective. Still no mention of Paddington 2, I see. So, if you take issue with the official list, you can submit your own favorites at nytimes.com. The final 20 films, including the number one pick, will be released on Friday. Those are the headlines. Today on The Daily, details about the ceasefire between Israel and Iran, which appears to be holding up one day after being announced. That's next in the New York Times audio app, or listen wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Will Jarvis. We'll be back tomorrow.